Rain slams against the windows of the little corner bakery in Lower Manhattan, turning the neon sign outside into a blurred smear of color. Leah Cole wipes her hands on her apron, flicks off the last row of warm display lights, and whispers, "Finally done," to the towers of macarons and the sleepy fridge humming in the corner. Her back aches from standing all day, but the sight of neatly arranged strawberry tarts still makes her chest loosen, with a tired kind of pride. This shop is the only thing her parents left her, along with their recipes, and a stubborn belief that sweetness can pull people back from the edge. Leah flips the sign to closed and reaches for the deadbolt just as a heavy thud sounds from the steps outside. Not a drunk slipping on the slick pavement. It sounds wrong. Final. Her heart jumps. She pushes the door open and steps into the cold rain. A man lies crumpled on the wet concrete, half on the step and half on the sidewalk, as if he tried to crawl toward her door, and ran out of strength. His clothes are soaked through, dark with rain and something that might be blood at the collar. One arm is wrapped tight around a battered leather portfolio pressed to his chest, like it is the only thing keeping him alive. "Hey." Leah crouches down, rain soaking her hair, sticking curls to her forehead. "Sir, can you hear me?" His lashes tremble. He is younger than she first thought, maybe mid-20s, with sharp cheekbones, and a mouth that might be soft if it were not so tightly pressed together. Right now his skin is the color of paper, his lips tinged blue. She reaches for his shoulder. In a flash his hand snaps up, thin fingers clamping around her wrist with surprising force. His eyes crack open, a stormy gray that tries and fails to focus on her face. "Do not touch me," he rasps, voice rough. "I do not have money. I will not cause trouble. Just leave me here." Leah blinks, stunned. "I am not asking for money. You collapsed in front of my shop. I am fine." His grip loosens, but only because his strength is spilling out of him into the rain. "Just go inside." "Yeah, no, that is not happening." Leah shifts closer, trying to get her shoulder under his to help him sit up. He groans when she moves him, one hand never leaving the portfolio. Pain flickers across his expression, then something like desperate panic. Before she can ask what hurts most, the screech of tires cuts through the rain. A sleek black sedan swings to the curb so fast a wave of filthy water splashes her shoes. Headlights glare like interrogation lamps. The passenger door flies open. A man in an expensive coat steps out, followed by two big guys who scream private security more than friends. The man shakes rain from his hair with a practiced toss of his head, then glares at the scene on the bakery steps. "Well, well," he drawls, voice smooth and cutting. "Look where the genius crawled off to." Leah instinctively angles her body in front of the stranger on the ground. "Can I help you?" He smiles without any warmth. "You already did. You found my property." He nods at the man clutching the portfolio. "Ethan, stop being dramatic. Get in the car and hand over the artwork you stole." Leah freezes. "Property." The man fixes her with a bored, dismissive glance. "Gray Vincent. I run the Vincent Gallery 4 blocks from here. That man is Ethan Thorne, a washed-up painter who owes me more than he will ever make baking cupcakes, or whatever it is you do in there." The guy on the ground, Ethan, digs his fingers into the leather portfolio until his knuckles go white. The rain runs lines down his temples, disappearing into the collar of his jacket. "Gray," he says, voice hoarse but steady. "You are not getting these." Gray laughs, full and cruel. "You still think those sketches are yours? That contract says otherwise." He jerks his chin at the bodyguards. "Take the portfolio. If he resists, make sure he thinks twice next time." The two men move forward, boots splashing in the puddles. Leah reacts before she can think. She plants herself between them and Ethan, arms spread wide, apron soaked. "Back off," she says. Her voice shakes but something fierce burns behind it. "He collapsed on my steps. He is hurt. You are not dragging him anywhere." One of the bodyguards lifts a hand to shove her aside. Leah does not move. Her pulse hammers, but she stands her ground, feeling Ethan press against her back as he tries to push himself up. "You really want to protect him?" Gray arches a brow, amused. "You have no idea who you are dealing with. I know how it looks." Leah fires back. Three grown men pushing around someone who can barely stay conscious. "That is what I see." Ethan tugs at her sleeve. "Leah," he mutters, like it hurts to say even that much. "Do not get involved. Just go inside. Lock the door." Leah glances down at him. His gray eyes are unfocused, but there is clarity in the fear there, not for himself, but for her. "No," she says quietly. "You passed out in front of my shop. That makes you my responsibility for tonight." Gray rolls his eyes, patience clearly thinning. Cute speech. He steps closer, rain beating on the shoulders of his cashmere coat. Give me the portfolio, and I will pretend this little place does not exist the next time code enforcement does a sweep. Or keep playing the hero and find out exactly how fast a bakery can go out of business when the city is not on its side. Leah swallows, stomach twisting. She sees her parents' recipes, the small savings account that barely covers rent, the regulars who come in every morning for cinnamon rolls because she knows how they like their coffee. This bakery is her whole life. She also sees Ethan trying to hold on to that portfolio like it is a life raft. Leah straightens her shoulders. You cannot threaten me with permits you do not control, and you sure as hell are not taking anything from him while he is half conscious on my steps. Gray's smile turns sharp. Fine. He nods to his men. Break his grip, take the folder, and if she calls the cops, I will make sure they find health violations in every corner of this little sugar box. Adrenaline burns away Leah's fear. In one quick motion she steps back into the shop, slams the door, and throws the lock. Then she snatches her phone from the counter and dials 911. The operator answers. There is a man being threatened outside my bakery on Delancey and 4th. Leah says, voice low and fast. They are trying to take something from him by force. They said they will trash my store if I do not let them. Please hurry. Outside, Gray pounds on the glass, rage breaking through his polished mask. Leah meets his gaze through the window, phone still pressed to her ear. Are you seriously calling the police? He mouths. Leah nods once. Try me. She mouths back. Sirens wail faintly in the distance, growing closer. Gray curses, rain plastering his hair to his forehead now that he cannot hide under attitude. He jerks his head at his men. This is not over. He calls through the glass. Ethan cannot hide behind your cupcakes forever. The sedan peels away, tires hissing over the wet asphalt. Leah does not wait to see the tail lights disappear. She unlocks the door and rushes back out to Ethan. His hand has finally slipped from the portfolio. His eyes are closed, lashes stuck in damp spikes against his cheeks. Hey, stay with me. Leah urges, shaking his shoulder gently. Ambulance is coming. All right, you are not dying on my doorstep. That is bad for business. A weak breath escapes him, almost a laugh. Always thinking about customers. He whispers. Good strategy. Leah lets out a shaky exhale. Yeah, well, you do not get to take a permanent nap in front of my shop sign. That is not the brand I am going for. His lips tilt just barely. Then his body goes limp, fully surrendering to unconsciousness. The sirens grow louder. Leah hugs the portfolio to her chest with one arm, the weight of it oddly heavy for a folder of paper, and with the other she clings to his wrist, feeling for the faint, stubborn pulse beneath her fingers. Rain runs cold down her neck, soaking through her clothes, but there is a strange heat in her chest. She does not know this man. She has no idea why a famous gallery owner is willing to show up in a storm to rip drawings out of his hands. She just knows that in this moment, letting him go would feel like letting something vital flicker out in front of her, like blowing out the last candle in a dark room. So she holds on tighter. The next morning, the rain is gone, leaving the city washed clean and oddly bright. Leah stands at the small window in the attic above her bakery, fingers wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee, watching the sun catch on damp fire escapes. Behind her, the bed frame creaks as someone shifts. You are awake, she says, turning. The man from the night before pushes himself up on his elbows. In the daylight he looks even thinner, cheekbones more defined, dark hair falling into his eyes. A faint bruise shadows the side of his neck where Gray's men must have grabbed him. He squints against the light. Where am I? Upstairs at Starlight Crumbs. Leah answers, gesturing around the tiny attic apartment. Well, that is what I call the bakery. You scared the life out of me passing out like that. They checked you at the hospital and tried to keep you, but you signed yourself out the second you could stand. So I dragged you here before you could face plant in the street again. His brow furrows. You should not have done that. Yeah, I got that vibe from your whole go away. I do not need anyone routine. She says dryly. Too bad. I already decided. I am Leah. A beat of silence, then, reluctantly. Ethan. Ethan Thorne. The name stirs something faintly familiar in her, like a headline she once schemed. A prodigy painter. A rising star. A scandal. Then the memory slips away, replaced by the immediate reality of this man sitting on her old twin bed, clutching a pillow like it is a shield. Nice to meet you without the rain trying to drown us. Leah says, crossing to offer him the coffee. Drink. You look like someone wrung you out and forgot to hang you back up. He gives a tired huff that might be a laugh and accepts the mug. His fingers brush hers, cool but steady. You called the cops, he says. It is not really a question. Yes, you are welcome. His jaw tightens. You should not have gotten between me and Gray. He does not give up. He will come back for the portfolio. Leah glances at the battered leather case leaning against her wardrobe. He can come back with a warrant and a better attitude. Until then, that thing is staying exactly where it is. A shadow crosses Ethan's face. You do not even know what is in there. I know it matters enough that you were ready to get your face smashed in for it, she says softly. That is enough for me right now. He looks away, staring at the worn floorboards. For a moment his eyes catch on the window, unfocused, as if he is staring a little to the left of the view. Then he blinks hard, recalibrating. Leah filed that away under things that are probably not fine. Downstairs, the bell on the front door jingles as the first early regulars arrive. Leah checks the clock over her dresser. I have to open up. You are not allowed to die or disappear while I am gone. That is a house rule. He almost smiles. You make a lot of rules for a stranger. You collapsed on my front step with a mobster art dealer on your heels. She counters. Congratulations, you officially skipped the normal customer tier and went straight to stray human I have adopted. His fingers tighten around the mug. You do not want to adopt me. Maybe not forever, she replies lightly. But for now, I can offer a bed, terrible attic insulation, and unlimited access to pastries. Something flickers in his eyes at the word pastries, a quick flash of curiosity through the exhaustion. I should pay you, he says. You can wash dishes later. Leah calls over her shoulder as she heads for the stairs. We will call it even. By mid-morning, the bakery is its usual whirlwind of sugar, steam, and controlled chaos. Leah pipes buttercream roses on cupcakes while music hums from an old speaker. The bell above the door rings in a steady rhythm as regulars come and go, leaving footprints of melting slush on the floor. Halfway through decorating a tray of lemon tarts, she feels eyes on her. Not the casual glances of customers, but a steady, intent stare. She looks up. Ethan stands at the end of the counter, one hand braced on the glass, the other tucked into the pocket of the too-thin jacket she found drying over the radiator earlier. He is not looking at the pastries or the menu. He is looking at her hands as they move, the way she turns each tart, the angle of the piping bag, the curl of each swirl. Hey, she says, wiping her fingers on a towel. You get lost in the great wilderness of my staircase. I heard the music, he answers. And the smell of sugar. His gaze slides past her to the trays of macarons. You make all of this yourself. With a little help from my oven, she says. And caffeine, lots of caffeine. He stares a moment longer, then his eyes drift to the small table by the window, where a basket of scrap paper sits beside a jar of pens and crayons for kids. Do you mind if I sit there? He asks quietly. It is a free country, she says. Mostly, as long as you promise not to collapse again. I am running low on panic for the week. His mouth twitches. He takes a seat by the window, the winter light pouring over his hunched shoulders. For a while he just sits, fingertips tapping lightly on the table, listening to the clatter and murmur inside the shop, and the distant city noise outside. Eventually he reaches for the basket of scrap paper and pulls out a crumpled menu. He smooths it with careful hands, then, almost reluctantly, digs a pen from the jar. The first line he draws is hesitant, shaky. The second comes smoother. Within minutes, little arcs and shadows cover the page, the lines sure and fluid, as if some muscle memory has snapped awake inside him. Leah sneaks glances while boxing cookies and ringing up orders. He draws the shelves behind the counter, the rounded tops of glass jars, the round shoulders of an old man sipping coffee by the door. His grip on the pen is steady, but every so often he pauses, squinting, moving the paper closer or farther, like he is trying to coax the image into focus. When the lunch rush finally thins, Leah brings over a plate with a slice of chocolate cake and a small espresso. She sets them on the table without asking. You looked like you might spontaneously combust from caffeine withdrawal, she says. Ethan blinks at the cake. I did not ask for this. You do not have to, she replies. It is a side effect of being adopted. Also, you keep staring at the pastries like a homeless raccoon at a picnic. He gives up arguing and picks up the fork. The first bite melts on his tongue, rich and bittersweet. Something almost like relief crosses his features. This is ridiculous, he murmurs, more to himself than to her. In a good way, I hope. In a dangerous way, he says quietly. If you keep feeding me things like this, I might forget why I was trying to disappear. Leah leans one hip against the table. Maybe that is not a bad thing. His gaze lifts to her face, and for a moment the intensity of it steals her breath. She sees something raw and unguarded there, a starving kind of longing, not for food, but for warmth, for a place to land. Then he blinks, shutters slamming down. He nudges the plate away. Do you always talk like that to people you barely know? Only to the ones who bleed on my doorstep, she says lightly. What are you drawing? He hesitates, then turns the paper toward her. Leah sucks in a breath. It is her, standing behind the counter, head tipped back in a laugh she does not remember letting out, icing bag in hand. The lines are loose and quick, but somehow he has captured not just her face, but the way she looks at the pastries, the way she looks at the world when she forgets to worry. This is insanely good, she says. Like, ridiculous. Why are you not selling this? His jaw tightens. Because everything I sell gets stolen anyway. The bitterness in his voice is a knife. Leah suddenly remembers the headline, the whispers at the coffee shop near the gallery district. A young painter accused of plagiarizing his own work, thrown out by the very gallery that made him famous. Ethan Thorne, the fallen star. Gray did that, she says quietly. He is the one who stole from you. Ethan laughs without humor. Trust me, the world does not see it that way. Gray has money and lawyers. I have a stack of bills and eyes that cannot even see the small print on my own contracts anymore. Leah's chest tightens. What do you mean, your eyes? He looks away, the light catching the faint cloudiness at the edge of his gray irises. They get tired. That is all. She does not believe him, not for a second. But the set of his shoulders tells her that pushing now will only make him retreat behind that brittle sarcasm. So she nods, as if satisfied. Well, consider this your unofficial studio for as long as you need it. Payment plan is simple. You draw. I feed you. You wash a few dishes if you feel guilty about taking up space. You do not know what you are inviting in, he says softly. Maybe not. She agrees. But I know what it feels like to be chased by something bigger than you, and still have to show up and do your job. If someone had given my parents a safe place to land when they were drowning in hospital bills, maybe they would still be alive. The words slip out before she can stop them. She has not said that out loud in years. The room feels suddenly fragile, like one wrong move could shatter it. Ethan studies her, something gentle in his gaze now. I am sorry, he says, and he means it. Leah clears her throat, pushes away the ache. Do not be. They taught me everything I know. How to whip egg whites to stiff peaks. How to smile at customers even when you are dead on your feet. How to never throw away bread unless it is an actual rock. He watches her as she talks, pen forgotten between his fingers, as if the sound of her voice is something worth drawing to. The days that follow settle into a rhythm that almost feels like a life they chose instead of one they fell into by accident. Ethan wakes in the attic to the smell of cinnamon and coffee, comes downstairs to fix the temperamental oven pilot light, or stack boxes in the storage room, then returns to the little table by the window to draw. He draws Leah laughing with a little kid, who just smashed a cupcake with both hands. He draws an old couple sharing a slice of pie. He draws the way the afternoon light spills through the glass, turning sugar dust in the air into tiny galaxies. Sometimes he pauses, rubbing at his temples, the lines on the page blurring and doubling. Sometimes he asks Leah to read the labels on the sugar containers, because the letters swim together. She pretends not to notice how often it happens. She also pretends not to notice when he leaves the attic at night and stands outside on the sidewalk, staring up at the empty wall above her shop sign like he is memorizing it. He is planning something. She can feel it in the way his hands are always reaching for another sheet of paper, another sketch, another attempt to capture starlight with ink. What she does not know is that he has already decided his plan ends with him gone before she has to watch him fade. What he does not know is that Leah Cole has never been any good at letting people leave once she has decided to keep them. The break-in happens 2 weeks later, on a night when the cold comes in sharp and mean. Leah closes up a little earlier than usual, fingers numb from decorating sugar cookies shaped like stars. She hums under her breath as she counts the cash drawer, thinking about trying a new lemon lavender recipe tomorrow. Upstairs, Ethan is supposed to be sleeping. He has seemed more exhausted lately, shoulders heavier, eyes ringed with bruised half-moons of fatigue. She flips the front door lock, checks it twice out of habit, then heads for the back, turning off lights as she goes. The kitchen falls into shadow, the stainless steel counters gleaming faintly in the exit sign glow. A soft scrape sounds near the back window. Leah freezes. Great. She mutters. Please do not let that be a rat. The scrape comes again, followed by the tiny squeal of metal shifting in a frame it should not be moving in. Then a gloved hand slides in under the loosened edge of the window, feeling for the latch. Leah's blood turns to ice. She backs away slowly, heart pounding in her throat, reaching for the nearest weapon her baker brain can offer. Her hand lands on a heavy metal rolling pin. The window lifts with painful slowness. A shadow squeezes through, boots hitting the floor with barely a sound. The man is dressed in black from head to toe, face hidden behind a ski mask. He moves with the easy assurance of someone who believes the world will always bend around him. He does not look at the register, does not look at the pastry cases. He walks straight toward the back stairs leading up to the attic. Leah's fear is instantly replaced by something hotter. Hey! She snaps, stepping into the narrow hallway, rolling pin raised like a sword. The store is closed. The man startles, then recovers fast. Move. He growls, voice muffled. Just here for a folder. Her stomach drops. Gray sent you. He does not confirm, but the flicker of annoyance in his posture is answer enough. I said move. He repeats. I am not here for you. Too bad. I live here. She tightens her grip on the rolling pin. You are not going upstairs. He takes a step closer. Lady, do not make me hurt you. Vincent is not paying me enough to deal with this. Then quit. Leah snaps. The rolling pin shakes in her hands, but she does not back down. I am not letting you near him, or his work. The man curses softly. In the tight hallway, there is not much space. He lunges. She swings. The rolling pin connects with his shoulder with a sick thud. Pain flashes across his eyes behind the mask. He shoves her hard. Leah slams into the wall, breath knocked from her lungs. The rolling pin clatters to the floor. By the time she scrambles to her feet, the intruder is already on the stairs, boots pounding up toward the attic. Ethan. Leah gasps, racing after him. Ethan. She reaches the top just in time to see the masked man wrench the leather portfolio from under Ethan's bed. Ethan is not asleep. He is on his feet, eyes blazing, breath scraping like broken glass in his chest. Put that down. He says, voice lethal calm. The intruder scoffs. Relax. Vincent just wants his property back. Ethan takes a step forward, and the world tilts under him. His vision tunnels, the edges of the room fading to gray haze. He blinks, but the man blurs into 2 then 3. He reaches anyway. The intruder swings the portfolio like a shield, slamming it into Ethan's chest. Ethan staggers, foot catching on the rug. He goes down hard, the back of his head cracking against the edge of the nightstand. Leah screams. The intruder hesitates, then bolts past her, crashing down the stairs, portfolio wedged under his arm. Leah drops to her knees beside Ethan. Blood blooms in his dark hair, trickling down the side of his face. His eyes flutter, unfocused and glassy. Ethan, hey, stay with me. She pleads. Come on, you still owe me dish duty for today. His lips move. Leah. His pupils are different sizes. Panic claws at her throat. She fumbles with her phone, hands shaking so badly it almost slips from her grip. 911. She chokes out when the operator answers. It is me again. The bakery on Delancey. Someone broke in. My friend, he hit his head, he is bleeding. Please, just send someone, please. The ambulance ride blurs into a smear of sirens and fluorescent lights. Leah sits squeezed between the gurney and the wall, clutching Ethan's icy hand as paramedics check his vitals and shine lights into his eyes. Blood pressure is low. One mutters. He is pale as hell. When did he last eat? He had a croissant and coffee at noon. Leah says automatically. And he picked at a sandwich around 3. He has been tired. He keeps saying it is nothing, but it is not nothing. I can feel it. Breathe. The paramedic says gently. We will take it from here. In the emergency room, they will Ethan away, leaving her in a plastic chair that feels too small, under lighting that makes everything look crueler. A nurse brings her forms she barely sees, her pen scratching signatures where they tell her. Hours bleed together. At some point, a doctor in blue scrubs approaches her, a folder in hand. His expression is careful, that professional mask Leah learned to hate when her parents were sick. Ms. Cole. He asks. You are the emergency contact for Mr. Thorne. Yes. She says, even though she has no idea when she inherited that title. Is he all right? He has a mild concussion. The doctor says. The CT scan does not show bleeding in the brain, which is good news. We are more concerned about his underlying condition. Leah grips the arms of the chair. What underlying condition? The doctor studies her for a moment, then sighs. He did not tell you. Tell me what? Instead of answering, the doctor sets a thin folder on the chair beside her. These were in his bag. I should not technically show you without his consent, but you brought him in twice in 1 week. If you are the one caring for him outside the hospital, you deserve to know what you are dealing with. He walks away before she can ask any more questions. Leah stares at the folder. Her stomach twists. She knows what medical folders can hold. Words that sound cold in the mouth. Time limits. The kind of numbers that count down instead of up. Her fingers shake as she flips it open. On top lies a stack of test results. Scans with ghostly images of optic nerves and brains. The words progressive retinal degeneration appear again and again, alongside phrases like irreversible and no known cure. A short summary letter sits on top of the pile. She reads the key lines twice to believe them. Patient Ethan Thorne, 26, diagnosed with a rare degenerative condition affecting the optic nerve. Rapid deterioration of visual acuity expected. Complications may include chronic pain, migraines, increased risk of secondary infections. Life expectancy reduced, estimated 6 to 12 months without aggressive experimental treatment. Her vision swims. She has to put the pages down before she tears them. Beneath the medical reports lies something else. A thick sketchbook, edges worn soft. For a second she thinks it is just another pad he uses for practice. Then she sees the first drawing. It is her. Not a posed portrait, not a carefully lit composition. It is Leah half asleep over a tray of cooling croissants, flour on her cheek, apron strings tangled. The next page shows her laughing at some dumb joke Mia told, head thrown back, eyes closed. Another captures the moment she pressed a cupcake with too much frosting into a little boy's hands, pretending to bow. Page after page, it is Leah. Leah rolling out dough. Leah writing today's flavors on the chalkboard. Leah standing on a step ladder to change a light bulb, expression fierce as a warrior. He has been drawing her every day, watching her, seeing her in ways she has never seen herself, and turning it into lines that pulse with something that makes her chest hurt. Tears fall thick and hot onto the paper. She hurriedly swipes them away with the back of her hand, terrified of smudging the graphite. The realization hits like a truck. He knew. He knew his eyes were failing, his body betraying him, his life compressed into a handful of months. And instead of telling her, he decided to spend those days capturing as many versions of her as he could, like he was building himself a private constellation to take into the dark. Leah closes the sketchbook, pressing her palm flat on the cover as if she can feel his heartbeat through it. You idiot. She whispers, voice breaking. You beautiful, stubborn idiot. When she finally gets to see him, hours later, he is propped up in a hospital bed, skin pale but color returning slowly to his lips. A bandage wraps around his head. The harsh fluorescent light makes the shadows under his eyes even deeper. He tries to straighten when she steps in. Leah, he says, then winces. You should not be here. They should have let you go home. Leah closes the door behind her and walks to the foot of the bed. The folder is in her hands. Her fingers dig into it. You have a rare degenerative eye disease, she says, voice barely more than air. They told you have months, maybe a year, and you did not think that detail was worth mentioning. Ethan's breath catches. For the first time since she met him, he looks genuinely afraid, not of Gray, not of losing his work, but of her. They gave you my files, he says. I opened your portfolio when the EMTs grabbed it from your hand. She replies. It is full of hospital reports and drawings of me, of my bakery, of my life you have been watching like a movie you know ends soon. His jaw clenches. He looks away, staring at the wall because the room has started to double, and it is easier if he does not try to make out details. I did not want you to look at me and see a countdown, he says finally. I wanted you to just see me, for however long I had. Leah steps closer, anger and grief tangling into something too big for her small frame. So your plan was what exactly? To bleed out quietly in my attic one day, and hope I would forgive you for never letting me choose. He flinches like she slapped him. You do not understand, he whispers. When Gray turned on me, when the critics lined up to tear me apart, the only thing I had left was my work. Then the doctors told me my eyes were failing, that every color I loved would blur and vanish. I could not face dragging anyone else into that. It felt obscene to ask for more when I had already lost so much. So you decided I would be better off not knowing, Leah says. You decided I was too fragile to carry the truth with you. I decided you were the only good thing left in my life, he says, voice low and ragged. And I did not want that good thing to be ruined by hospital smell, and conversations about treatment options that will probably not work. I wanted to give you whatever I could while I still could. Fix your oven. Paint the sign you said you could not afford. Draw you the way I see you before the world goes dark. Tears spill down Leah's cheeks unchecked now. You do not get to make that choice for me, she says, every word a tremor. You do not get to decide. I am not allowed to stand next to you when everything hurts just because you are afraid I will break. He finally looks at her. Really looks, even though the room is haloed in blur, and his head throbs with each heartbeat. I have been alone for a long time, he says quietly. It felt easier to keep it that way. People leave when they realize I am a sinking ship. I am not people, she snaps. I am Leah, and if you had told me from the start, I would have still made you cake and coffee and terrible jokes. I would have still hung your drawings in the kitchen. I would have still stood between you and Gray on that sidewalk. The only difference is I would not feel like you took my choice away. The monitors beep softly in the background, marking his fragile heartbeats. Ethan swallows hard. I am sorry, he says. The words sound too small for what sits between them. I have been selfish in ways I did not even understand. Leah wipes at her cheeks with shaking hands. Damn right, she says. And I am not letting you be selfish anymore. He blinks. What does that mean? It means we are going to talk to your doctors, she says, shoulders squaring. We are going to figure out if there is any treatment, any trial, anything that might give you more time, or at least less pain. It means you are not going back to that attic alone, with a stack of sketchbooks and a secret. I am in this, all the way, whether you like it or not. A choked laugh escapes him, half sob, half disbelief. Leah, you cannot just watch me, she says. You told me my bakery made you feel like you forgot you were trying to disappear. I am taking that as a binding contract. You are not disappearing without my consent. The corner of his mouth lifts, eyes shining. You are ridiculous. Thank you, she says. Now scoot over. I am going to sit here and glare at you until the doctor comes back, and then we are going to make a plan. And after that we are going to make Gray wish he had never heard your name. He stares at her, the weight in his chest loosening for the first time in months. Amid the fear and exhaustion, something warm stirs. Hope. Leah, he says. It is not quite I love you, but it is close, tucked into the way he says her name like it is the one color he can still see clearly. She pulls a chair up to the side of the bed, and takes his hand, lacing their fingers together. Sleep, she orders gently. I will keep watch. For the first time since his diagnosis, Ethan closes his eyes, and does not feel like he is falling alone. The follow-up appointment is brutal. They sit side by side in the small, windowless office, while the specialist explains percentages and probabilities in a soothing tone that makes Leah want to scream. There is an experimental trial, the doctor says. It might slow the degeneration, maybe even reverse a small portion, but it is costly, and the side effects are significant. There is no guarantee. How costly? Leah asks. The doctor slides a paper across the desk. The number might as well be written in another language. Leah feels her stomach drop. Ethan does not react. He stares at his hands, as if the conversation does not involve him. We can discuss payment plans, fundraising, charity grants. The doctor offers. But realistically, even with assistance, this will be a heavy burden. Thank you, Leah says, voice tight. We will think about it. On the subway ride home, Ethan finally speaks. Do not do it, he says. Do not do what? Do not empty your savings, start a GoFundMe, beg on the street, whatever it is your brain is already planning. He says quietly. I can hear you thinking. You heard the doctor, she replies, staring at the blurred reflection of the car lights in the window. There is a chance. A small one, he says. With a lot of suffering attached. I have watched my mother chase treatments for a disease that still took her. In the end, all the hospitals did was steal her last months and turn them into white corridors and beeping machines. I do not want that. Leah bites the inside of her cheek until she tastes blood. So you are giving up. I am choosing what to do with what time I have, he says. I want to paint. I want to taste your stupid over-sugared cupcakes. I want to walk to the pier and pretend the city is not secretly broken. I do not want to spend whatever is left being sliced open for another test that might buy me 3 extra weeks of misery. His voice cracks on the last word. Leah exhales slowly. Fine, she says. No expensive trial, for now. But there is one thing we are not arguing about. He glances at her. What is that? You are not going to fade out of this world with people thinking Gray Vincent was the genius and you were the fraud, she says. Fire lights in her eyes. If you want to use your time to paint, then we are going to make damn sure people see those paintings. On your terms, not his. A few days later, after endless phone calls and rejection, they find a small community art center willing to host an exhibition. The director, a woman in her 50s with fierce eyes and paint on her hands, looks through Ethan's portfolio and whistles low. If these are the pieces Gray been showing as his own, half the critics in this town owe you an apology. She says. You sure you want to poke that bear? I am done being afraid of him. Ethan answers. His voice shakes, but Leah feels the resolve in it like steel. I want people to know the truth. Then we will hang every canvas we can fit. The director says. And if Vincent shows up to make trouble, I will personally kick him back onto the sidewalk. While Ethan paints, Leah and Mia turn into amateur detectives. Mia, who has a talent for social media stalking, digs up old posts, event photos, and behind-the-scenes clips from Vincent Gallery's heyday. Look at this, she says one night, laptop balanced on her knees at Leah's kitchen table. Gray posted a video 3 years ago bragging about how he nurtures raw talent. Pause it here. See that canvas in the background that is clearly Ethan's style, but the caption says new work from a promising anonymous artist whose name will be revealed soon. That reveal never happened. Leah leans closer. Because he never intended to give Ethan credit, she says. He wanted to keep him as a ghost in the back room while he took the applause. Together, they gather contracts, old emails Ethan still has in his inbox, screenshots of texts where Gray promised fair payment and promotion, then quietly stopped answering once the critical buzz settled. They also find a second set of contracts, from when Gray's lawyers tried to push Ethan into signing over rights in exchange for a small buyout. You did not sign this, Leah says, flipping through the pages. I walked out. Ethan replies. They called it self-sabotage. I called it refusing to sell the last pieces of myself. Leah lifts her phone. Good. Because we are going to show everyone exactly what he tried to buy. Mia raises an eyebrow. You are going to war with a man whose idea of conflict resolution is hiring masked burglars. Then good thing we have better weapons. Leah says. Evidence. And sugar. On the day the show is announced, Leah bakes until dawn. Star-shaped cookies glazed in midnight blue. Cupcakes swirled with iridescent frosting that looks like galaxies. Lemon tarts dusted with edible glitter. She posts photos with the event flyer, tagging the art center, and using every hashtag Mia suggests. Hashtag Thorn Rising, hashtag Stolen Light, hashtag Vincent Lies. The story spreads faster than she expects. People love a scandal, especially one that pits a wealthy gallery owner against a sick young artist who was once the darling of the scene. By the time Gray sees it, the comments under his most recent post are already flooded with accusations. Did you really steal his work? Why did you drop him after the site thing came out? Are you suing an artist with a terminal illness? Gray responds the way men like him always do when someone kicks the pedestal. He hires a lawyer. A cease and desist arrives at the bakery, thick paper and thicker threats, claiming defamation, breach of contract, and emotional distress. Leah stands in the kitchen with the letter in one hand and a piping bag in the other. The words swim together, dense and ugly. Mia reads over her shoulder. Emotional distress. She snorts. He really wrote that with a straight face. Leah takes a deep breath, then pulls out her phone and snaps a picture of the letter beside a tray of star cookies. She posts it with the caption, when a gallery owner, who stole your art and sent a thug to your home claims he is the real victim. See you at the show. The post goes viral. Reporters call. Bloggers write think pieces about power imbalances in the art world. Former employees of Vincent Gallery come forward anonymously, describing how they watched unsigned artists' work ghosted right onto Gray's walls. Under the weight of so much attention, Gray cracks. He storms into the bakery 2 days before the show, jaw clenched, eyes wild. The bell above the door jingles pathetically as he shoves it open. Take it down. He snaps, slamming a printout of Leah's post on the counter. All of it. The accusations. The show. Or I will own this dump by the end of the month. Leah does not flinch. Behind her, the ovens hum, rows of cupcakes cooling peacefully. You already tried to own everything Ethan ever created, she says evenly. You do not get my bakery too. You think the court of public opinion is going to save you. He sneers. I have lawyers. You have what exactly? A sad little sob story about a dying artist and a cupcake girl who watched too many underdog movies. Leah smiles, slow and sharp. I have the originals, she says. The dates on his sketchbooks. The early drafts of pieces you are currently displaying under your own name. I have emails where you begged him for more, promised him the world if he just stayed quiet. I have a recording of the phone call where you threatened to ruin his career if he ever spoke up. Gray pales. You do not. Mia steps out from the kitchen, phone in hand. Funny thing about phones, she says cheerfully. They hear everything. Leah leans on the counter. You could sue us, she says. Drag this out for years. But by then, everyone will already know what you are. A thief who built his empire on someone else's eyes. The show is happening. You can either stay home and pretend nothing is crumbling, or show up and watch people realize whose name should have been on those walls all along. Gray stares at her, the muscles in his jaw ticking. Leah can almost see the calculation behind his eyes, the way he weighs money against reputation. This is not over. He spits finally. You have no idea what kind of enemies you are making. Leah shrugs. Good thing I specialize in turning bitter things sweet, she says. Get out of my shop. He glares a moment longer, then spins on his heel and stalks out into the street, the bell jangling behind him like laughter. The night of the exhibition, the sky over the city clears, as if the weather itself has decided to give them a chance. Leah stands in front of the art center's doors, heart pounding, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress for the 15th time. Mia fidgets with a tray of star cookies, humming under her breath. You look like you are about to walk into battle. Mia says. I am. Leah answers. Only with less armor and more frosting. Inside, volunteers hang small fairy lights along the ceiling, turning the plain room into something softer, almost sacred. On the walls, Ethan's paintings glow. His early pieces, done before the diagnosis, explode with color and detail. Cityscapes shimmering in rainy reflections, portraits that seem to breathe, night skies so rich with stars you can almost hear them hum. His more recent works are different. The edges blur, details dissolving into washes of light and shadow. But there is a new intensity there, a focus on sensation rather than precision. A series of paintings captures the bakery in different moments. The counter at dawn, bathed in cold blue light. The oven door opening, spilling gold across the floor. Leah's silhouette in the window at closing time. At the center of it all hangs a canvas he finished only days ago, his hands shaking, Leah's fingers guiding his where they needed to go. It is titled Shattered Starlight. The painting shows the bakery from the street at night, windows glowing warm against the dark. Above it, the sky is filled with shards of stars, like glass scattered across velvet. Each shard reflects a different moment Leah has lived inside that shop. A laugh, a spilled coffee, a tear wiped away with the back of a flour-dusted hand. It is heartbreak and hope stitched together in oil. Leah feels something in her chest crack open just looking at it. Hey, a voice says softly behind her. She turns. Ethan stands in the doorway, leaning on a cane he hates, wearing a suit that hangs a little loose on his frame. His eyes are different now, the outer edges clouded, pupils dilated as they try to drink in as much light as possible. You are late, Leah says, trying for lightness and not quite managing it. I had to fight with a tie, he says. The tie won. She reaches up, fingers deft as she straightens the knot. There, she murmurs. Now you look like someone whose genius has never been in question. He huffs a laugh, then falls quiet, gaze drifting over her shoulder toward the paintings. I cannot see them the way I used to, he admits. But I can feel them. The way the room changes when people stand in front of certain pieces. The way you hold your breath when you look at that one. He nods toward Shattered Starlight. How do you know I am holding my breath? She asks. I always know when you forget to breathe. He says softly. Her throat tightens. You ready for this? No, he says honestly. But I would rather stand in this room with you and be terrified than sit in the attic alone pretending I do not care. People begin to arrive. At first just a trickle, then a steady flow. Artists Ethan once knew, carrying guilt like extra weight on their shoulders. Students clutching notebooks. Neighbors from the block who only know him as the quiet guy at Leah's window table. A reporter from an arts magazine approaches with a recorder. Mr. Thorne, she says. How does it feel to see your work finally shown under your own name, after everything with Vincent Gallery? Ethan takes a breath. Leah squeezes his hand. It feels like getting my sight back in a different way, he says. Even as I am losing it. Murmurs ripple through the room. Do you have anything you want to say to Gray Vincent? The reporter presses. Ethan shakes his head. No, he says. Tonight is not about him. It is about every artist who was told their work only mattered if someone richer signed off on it. It is about the people who stood next to me when it would have been easier to look away. He glances at Leah. The look is so full of unspoken things her knees almost buckle. Gray shows up anyway, of course. Men like him cannot resist watching their own downfall, just in case there is still a chance to claw something back. He stands near the door, shoulders tense, scanning the room for any sign that someone might be willing to listen to his version. No one is. When he tries to approach a group of critics, they step away. One of them nods toward shattered starlight. Hard to argue with the evidence when it is staring you in the face, she says. By the end of the night, invitations sit in Ethan's inbox from other galleries, smaller but earnest, offering future shows, residencies, collaborations. The art center director beams like a proud aunt. You did it, Leah whispers as she steers Ethan toward shattered starlight. You took your name back. He stands in front of the painting, silent for a long moment. The room buzzes behind them, voices and clinking glasses and someone laughing too loudly. But here, in this small pocket of space, it feels like there is only the two of them. I need to tell you something, he says, voice low. Leah's heart stutters. If you say you are leaving town tonight, I am throwing this cane at you, she warns. He smiles. No, I am not running anymore. He turns to face her fully, even though the edges of her outline blur. He traces her features with his gaze, or tries to, memorizing the curve of her mouth, the way her eyes shine when she is about to cry and pretend she is not. Leah, he says, the word a breath and a prayer. When I first came to your doorstep, I wanted to disappear. I was ready to let the world think I was a fraud, to let my work rot in some storage unit, while Gray hung copies under his name. I did not care what happened to me. Do not talk about yourself like that, she says reflexively. He shakes his head. Let me finish. Then you opened your door. You pulled me out of the rain, fed me sugar and warmth, and looked at my drawings like they were something holy. You were angry for me when I could not even be angry for myself. You turned my last months into something that feels like a life instead of a slow fade out. Her eyes blur. Ethan, she whispers. I am still dying, he says. The doctors are not wrong. The headaches are getting worse. Some mornings I wake up and the world is already dimmer. That is not going to change. But loving you has made every remaining second feel like borrowed light. Like starlight. You know it left its source ages ago, but it still reaches you, still warms your face when you look up. He takes her hands, his thumb brushing over the calluses from years of kneading dough. I love you, he says, simple and clear. I am sorry I wasted so much time pretending I could live with just drawing you from across the room. I love you, Leah Cole, with whatever sight I have left, with every heartbeat, until the last one. Tears spill freely down her cheeks now. She lets them. You idiot, she says again, voice shaking. You stubborn, brilliant idiot. Then she leans in and kisses him, right there in front of shattered starlight, and half the art scene of New York. The room erupts into applause, some sincere, some delighted at the drama, but Leah barely hears it. All she feels is the press of his mouth against hers, the way his hands tremble as they hold on, as if he already knows what it will cost him to let go. When they pull apart, she rests her forehead against his. I love you too, she whispers. So much it makes my chest hurt. And I am not wasting another day pretending it is anything else. He laughs, a wet, shaky sound. Guess we are both terrible at pretending. Good, she says. Honesty looks better on you. Ethan dies 3 months later, on a morning when the city is wrapped in snow, and the bakery smells like cinnamon and vanilla. He sleeps most of the last week, sinking deeper into the fog of pain medications and exhaustion. Leah stays by his side in the small bedroom she has moved into the back of the bakery, because climbing the attic stairs became impossible. Sometimes he wakes enough to talk. He tells her about the first time a teacher put one of his drawings on the wall, and he realized the world could look different if he wanted it to. He tells her about the day Gray approached him with a contract and a smile that did not reach his eyes. He tells her he wishes he had met her sooner, before so much got broken. Leah listens, brushes hair from his forehead, presses cold cloths to his temples when the headaches rage, holds his hand when the fear spikes. She does not talk about the paperwork on the table in the corner, the arrangements, the legal documents. There will be time for that later, not for him, but for her. On the last morning, she wakes to find him watching her. His eyes are almost white at the edges now, pupils huge, but there is still a spark there, small and stubborn. Hey, she whispers, throat thick. You should be sleeping. I wanted to see you one more time, he says. His voice is thin but steady. Really see you. Even if it is mostly in memory. She swallows a sob. I am not going anywhere. I am right here. I know. he says. You were always here, even before I deserved it. She leans over him, pressing her forward to his. You always deserved it, she says. You were just too busy drowning to notice someone was holding out a hand. He breathes out a soft laugh. Leah. Yeah. Do you remember what you said, the night of the show? He asks. About Starlight. She nods, tears slipping down to dampen his pillow. I said it is light that left its source a long time ago, but still reaches us, still warms us. That is what I want to be for you, he says. Not a wound, just light that lingers a little. In the bakery, in the paintings, in the stupid way you sprinkle too much sugar on everything. She lets out a broken laugh. There is no such thing as too much sugar. He smiles, faint. Promise me something. Anything. Do not turn the bakery into a museum of my ghost. He says. Keep living, keep baking, fall in love again someday. Curse at the oven when it burns your cookies. Hang my paintings where the glaze can catch the light, not in some cold gallery. Let me stay in the background, like music, not a monument. She wants to tell him no. Wants to promise she will never love anyone else, that her heart is his and his alone. But she remembers the way he looked standing in front of shattered Starlight, finally claiming his name, finally allowed to be more than his pain. He never wanted to be a cage for her. I promise, she whispers. I will live loud and messy and sweet. I will make sure people taste your light in every bite. Good. He murmurs. His hand finds hers, fingers cold but sure. Then I can go. The words puncture something in her. Panic flares. No, she says, tears spilling faster. Stay a little longer, please. He squeezes her hand with what strength he has left. Leah, he says. There is that almost I love you again, layered over the one he already said. Look at me. She forces her eyes to his, even though the sight of how much he has faded almost breaks her. I am not leaving you, he says. I am just stepping into another room. You will still feel me. In the oven door that always sticks. In the way the morning light hits the front window. In every person who stops to stare at the painting in your shop and feels something in their chest they cannot explain. She nods, sobbing openly now. Okay, she says. Okay. He exhales, a long, shuddering breath. His hand slackens in hers. The lines on the heart monitor flatten into a steady tone. Leah presses her forward more firmly against his, holding on for one last impossible second, then reaches out with a shaking hand to hit the call button. The weeks that follow blur. There are arrangements and condolences, strangers sending messages about how his work changed them, how his story opened their eyes to the quiet exploitation in their own fields. The Vincent Gallery closes within months. More artists come forward. Lawsuits pile up. Gray is eventually charged with fraud and embezzlement. Leah does not go to the trial. She reads the verdict in the paper while kneading dough, flour up to her elbows. When she hears he is going to prison, she feels nothing but a small, tired satisfaction. Justice, she has learned, does not fix what was broken. It just stops the breaking from spreading. What heals is smaller, slower. She renames the bakery Shattered Starlight. The new sign hangs above the door, painted in bold, sure strokes from one of Ethan's last clear-sighted days. Inside, she rearranges the walls to make space for his work. Not like in a gallery, all white space and curated angles, but like they live there. A painting above the corner table, where he used to sit. Another near the register, where kids can point at it and ask questions with sticky fingers. She creates a signature dessert. A vanilla bean cheesecake with a crumble crust, swirled with dark chocolate in patterns that look like constellations. On top, she sprinkles shards of sugar glass, tinted faintly blue and gold. She calls it Starlight Slice. People come in asking for it, some because they saw a feature about Ethan in a magazine, some because they heard the cheesecake is ridiculous. Leah tells the story to the ones who want to hear it. To the others, she just smiles and slides the plate across the counter. The dessert speaks for itself. Mia stays by her side through the worst days, cracking bad jokes, dragging her out to see movies when she would rather curl up in the dark, handing her tissues when she inevitably cries at the scene where the main character chooses life again. Do you ever feel like he is still here? Mia asks one night as they close up, wiping down tables. Leah looks at the painting of the bakery at dawn, the one Ethan finished with her hand over his. The way the light spills through the glass looks exactly like the real morning. Every day, she says. Sometimes I turn and swear I am about to see him at the window table, squinting at a sketch, or I will over whip cream and hear his voice in my head making some pretentious analogy about texture and emotion. Mia laughs softly. Is that scary? It is the opposite. Leah says. It is like having a second layer of reality. The one where he is gone and the one where he is woven into everything. On the first anniversary of his death, Leah gets up before dawn and walks to the river. The city is quiet, buildings hulking silhouettes against a sky that is just beginning to pale. She stands at the railing, breath puffing white in the cold air. I did it, she says quietly, as if he is leaning on the rail beside her. The bakery is still open. People love Starlight Slice. Your paintings are in the museum now, and in little coffee shops in neighborhoods you never got to wander. Gray is where he belongs. I yelled at a health inspector last week, and did not cry afterward. You would be proud. She looks up. The stars are faint here, washed out by city light, but she can still see a few stubborn ones clinging to the sky. I miss you, she adds, the words pulled from a place too deep to ever fully empty. But it does not hurt the same way. It is like a bruise now, not an open wound. I can press on it and remember without falling apart. A breeze rises, cold and clean, tugging at her hair. It feels almost like a hand on her shoulder. She smiles. Okay, she says. Come on, we have bread to bake. Back at Shattered Starlight, she flips the sign to open as the sun rises, painting the window in soft gold. People will come in soon, asking for coffee and pastries, and maybe a slice of something that tastes like hope. Behind the counter, Shattered Starlight, the painting catches the first light of morning. The sugar shards in the frame of the real cheesecake sparkle on the display shelf. Leah ties on her apron, picks up a piping bag, and starts to draw constellations in chocolate on a fresh tray of desserts. Outside, the city surges awake. Inside, in this small warm corner of it, a love that burned brief and bright refuses to go dark. It lingers, soft and steady, in every brushstroke and every bite. In every person who walks through the door, looks up at the painting, and feels, just for a second, like someone turned on a light inside their chest. Like starlight, light that left its source, but somehow still finds its way home.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.